Ah, geez, I don't know how to describe the movie. I would just say that the name kind of sums it up the best. Just saying, it's called Snuff Said. That's all you need to know. Like, I was trying to explain this movie to someone back before we even started filming it. And all I could tell him was that it's a horror comedy called Snuff Said, and he started laughing at that. It's just really street guys who just don't know what they're doing at all. Just trying to make a film. Obviously, like, we went way more for comedy than horror in that movie, because it's much easier to show comedy than horror, I think. But I do like how it goes from more of a comedy at the beginning and slowly starts to become a horror movie at the end, to the point where it just becomes a straight-up horror movie. But besides that, just tell them the name and they'll know everything it is about it.
Very fun. Would be the best I could come up with.
Well, you ever just want to like see a movie about people that want to kill somebody, but they're really bad at it? This is your type of movie.
Well, I mean, it's a horror, so horror.
Pretty much an episode of the Three Stooges, gone wrong, gone sexual. Like a social experiment, just gone wrong.
If you combined a horror movie and a comedy, and they had a love child.
I'd say it's three not so bright guys who, we say it's three people who really want to kill, but it's more like three guys who were smoking weed one day and thought it'd be funny to kill someone, and they never came to their senses, and they're just like, we totally got this, guys. But their hearts aren't really in it that well. James's character's heart's in it, but they don't really have the brains behind the operations. It's kind of like, it's watching three idiots fumble around trying to do some damage and not really going anywhere.
So it's just a good movie all over.
Okay, so the original idea for Snuff Said started was probably what you should never start a movie like this. But one day I was just sitting down after making Damage Control 2, and I think we were in the middle of filming it, and I just thought of the title Snuff Said. It just started with the title, and I was like, okay, you know what, that sounds like a fun movie. Now I'm going to have to make up a whole movie based around that idea. And I came up with a really rough outline, probably about like 4, 5 sentences. And when I was on a camping trip with my friends, I gave them like a bunch of lists of possible movies we could film next. I gave them a list of a bunch of possible movies we can film next year, and everyone picked this one movie that I knew we couldn't do. And then the second most voted one was Snuff Said, because it was the cheapest, and it just seemed like it would be the most fun to film. And from there, I decided to start writing after that, because it seemed like everyone thought that was a good idea. Okay, so the writing for Snuff Said, I didn't actually make a script because I knew that, one, in our previous times when I tried to make a script it didn't work, and then two, people just don't know lines. We're not actors. I don't expect people to go out and memorize an entire script like an actor actually will. And I knew just trying to, and it would just be a waste of my time to write an entire, like, what ended up being a feature-length script. So, I just wrote kind of like an outline where just a paragraph is a scene that takes place in one single location. And like every now and then I wrote some dialogue, but mostly I just told people the gist of what to say. So many scenes we just went out there and filmed, not knowing what it would be about. I don't think it took me that long to write, because I had like a small outline, then like a good outline, then just the whole like paragraph outline after that. It went pretty smoothly, but I was about halfway through writing the script for Snuff Said when all of a sudden I just got this idea that this is terrible. No one will want to ever see this, and I'm just going to ruin everything if we make this movie. So I just put it away, and then I wrote another script, another outline for a movie called Damage Control 3 Revelations that we're actually currently filming now, and none of that outline actually changed. Only like a few things were added to that, but mostly like I went to that thinking, okay, this is like a safe bet. I'll be fine with this. And then I realized I'll give Snuff Said a chance. So I went back, finished the outline, and just kind of hoped for the best, and hoping that I didn't just make a very big mistake by attempting something we had no chance of filming. well, from the get-go, I pretty much just pay for the movie, and for these movies, I went back to later on and asked people if anyone wanted to like donate some money, and I think this movie ended up being a good chunk of it paid for by Keith Hans. All the blood was done by was paid for by my mom, Donna Scott, and then though I haven't paid the money yet, when you get this, it'll be on a DVD, and all the DVDs will be paid by me, which will end up being actually a big chunk, because I was actually just looking at the budget today, and not counting blood, because my mom didn't give me an estimate to that, it was a little over $11 to make that movie. And like Alaskan Ed ended up being like $30 or $40. So I would say for my the initial investment, it definitely like came out on top. And I would say out of all the movies, this is the one movie where the financing of it didn't actually matter too much, because it was basically money I probably could have just had in my wallet, throw out, buy the stuff I need, and we got a movie. Toby was just the person who was filming the entire time out of the three friends, and there's not really much to him in like the first like 2 acts of the movie. He's just kind of there to be the person recording it, so it is found footage, and we can have 2 people on screen at all times. And I didn't really want the camera to be going between multiple people, so I wanted like a stationary person. We went from a weird guy up into like a guy you actually feel sorry for, and kind of like the emotional backbone of the movie. And the other 2 were, one was played by Shane Scott, who is my brother, and pretty much does everything, and is always reliable.
Well, as Max, I felt I was kind of like, I was very narcissistic. My guy was like the leader. I mean, Sean's character didn't really talk. James was kind of like a follower at the beginning, so I guess I was just a natural leader. But so I did most of the talking in the movie, so that was fun. And with that, I kind of was the one like kind of in front when we were doing stuff. But I like how it kind of went. James kind of tried to usurp me later in the movie, you know, and you kind of saw how that worked out for all of us. So.
And James Bull, I really could not think of anyone else playing that role. Like that was like the one role, like this is the person who needs to play it. There's no way around it.
Well, I'm one of the killers, obviously, so I guess I was trying to become the leader in the whole thing. I was supposed to be like the more mentally disturbed one, the one that was more macabre than the rest. So I guess that's how I factored into that.
When you want to make a movie, you cast yourself in it, because that's one less person to worry about showing up. Like, I know the guy who plays Toby will be there because I'll be there, like, every single filming day. So that's why I'm always in my movies, if anyone's wondering. Besides that, the reason he also doesn't talk a lot is because I didn't want any lines to remember. And in all my movies, I always tinker with a character who just doesn't say much, because I thought that was interesting. But really, it's kind of like, I don't want to say a lot, because it's too much for me to remember. And then going back to when he, later in the movie, he definitely becomes the person that you kind of feel more sorry for than the other street killers. Like, in the original draft of the movie, all 3 of them were people who they were funny, but you wanted them to die, which is the point, but you didn't have anyone that you actually, like, felt sorry for, or wanted, like, not the good guy, but you just wanted to see make it out, hopefully. And that's why I changed the role around. Well, the 3 main characters of Max, Zeke, and Toby were the exact same people who played the 3 main killers from our other movies, Damage Control, which I guess like I was subconsciously thinking, like I didn't go out and say, oh, they're the killers from Damage Control, they're the killers for this movie. It's kind of like, one of them's me, so, the street killers need to be there at every single filming date, so that was the important part. So they had to be people who were reliable and just had nothing better to do. With Toby, I played that because, like, why not just have myself play a role? It's easier that way. And I didn't have any lines, so it's definitely appealing. And also the names, if you know me, you'll know this, but the names are Max and Zeke are 2 of my old dogs that I had growing up, and Toby's actually my current dog that you'll see during the party scene, who eats a hot dog right off of my plate, right on camera. And then I just knew that we were good fit for the role, because I made sure we when I was writing it, like I had these people in mind. But basically, we're the street people who would always be free, and that's what I was kind of banking on. Harold was played by Jacob Rippin, who has appeared in our other movies. Really, and that's another role. It's like I couldn't really pick anyone else but him because he just gives off that creepy, uncomfortable vibe. Sorry, and naming him came from his parents always call him like Harold for some reason. Don't know why. That's not his name or his middle name. I don't know where that came from, but I was like, okay, well, he's called Harold now. That fits in with everything else. And really, I thought Rippin was a perfect fit for like the deranged psychopath who doesn't really say any words and just shows up at the end. And another lesser thing is Harold didn't have a lot of like lines or really scenes in the movie, and it's because we don't want to necessarily say Rippin's a bad actor. We just like to limit the line that he is capable of saying on screen.
They thought I was going to be a victim. No, I turned out to be a better killer.
I like Rippin's character in the movie. I thought he was a really good. I mean, it's awkward because you kind of see him in the background occasionally, and you don't think too much of it. But then he's the guy that actually kills us.
Kevin. Well, Kevin Fetz is pretty much just a similar name to the person who played it, Keith Hans, or Hans as we like to call him. Basically, originally, like, there was really no one else for it because I wrote it as Kevin Fetz, which is supposed to be like similar to his name. He's just supposed to be some guy who was barely in it that we just make fun of, and that's, if you ever met us and Keith, we just make fun of him all the time. So he really is the person that we're in that movie.
As far as I know, I was written in just because I'm friends with you. Like, my character has no reason to be in the movie. Originally, I literally just handed them the camera for you literally wrote me in as a bit part. Basically, I'd say my character is not important to the plot, and he's just like a joke that we threw in there for a little bit.
Mike, well, of course that was Donovan Logar, and really I didn't write that part for him in mind, but like I probably couldn't have found anyone else to play that character, because he was just kind of supposed to be really full of himself, a bigger guy who could obviously beat up the people that were throwing at him, and really I had to go with my friends, and obviously Donovan was like the easiest person to get there, and he was always reliable. So that's pretty much why I did that. And making a character, it was originally named Chris, and one day Donovan just said he wanted to call it Mike. Not sure why. If I had to guess, it's Magic Mike. Must be his favorite movie of all time. But beside that, I have no idea why he changed the name, but I honestly, the names of that character wasn't important, so anything worked with me.
Mike was kind of I want to say a background-ish character. It was kind of a douchebag. He was just kind of there to piss everyone off. That was his only goal as a member of the group, was to just piss everyone else off. And he turns out to be like a very important character towards the end, him and Harold.
Jamie, that's actually probably a setback on the set, was the casting of Jamie. Originally it went to Christine Kelburn, who, if you watch Alaskan Ed, she plays the former girlfriend of Alaskan Ed and the mother of Idaho Joe. And then for the party scene, we found a day she was totally free, and then we had the party scene, and then right when it began, it's oh, I won't be able to make it to that. Oh, well, that sucks. So, and there was there was only one other girl there at the moment, Taryn Doyle, who is Donovan Logar's girlfriend at the time and currently.
I didn't even know my name was Jamie. Well, my character was at a party, and I looked around a bit, talked to some people, and then I died. And
really, that was my only option at that point. I was the only girl there. Other people came later, but really, the role wasn't too extravagant. It was just to be at the party scene, have one line, and then literally just be a dead body on the table. So really, anyone could do it, but I had no one to do it. So it went to the only person who I had available at the time, and I'm really glad it worked out because we were able to work around her schedule really well. The opening was, I think we filmed that one really first, maybe with the opening or the party scene, but the opening involved me acting like I'm dead on the ground, like on the table in the kill room while Max videotapes me, and then Zeke comes in, drops the blood, and then I get up because I don't like sitting there. So basically it's supposed to act like, oh, it's a real horror movie, but then you find out that, oh, they're just faking everything. And the blood actually looks pretty good. It looks better than the blood we do later on, I thought. So the fake blood in our movie is better than what's supposed to be the real blood in our movie. Besides that, the opening was a lot of fun to film because it was really quick, didn't require much effort. I would just say that I had a lot of fun doing that. It just required a lot of blood, and I had to like lay on a table as people just covered me in blood and just lay there and not making any sound. That was definitely one of the more fun days that we had. Well, the party scene, we've attempted a party one time before in the first Damage Control film, and you will not see a party scene in that because it was an utter failure. It was also a pretty easy filming day. It was done in 2 chunks. Like the first chunk was just us sitting there, like me, Shane, and James talking for a long time. Then we just took a break for like an hour and a half. Then filmed the rest of it where other people get into the play, like Mike and Jamie. But besides that, it was actually didn't take that long to film. Even though a lot of the runtime of the movie is at a party, just us talking. It didn't take much time to film.
The party scene was really fun, though.
Party scene, I don't think there was much going on aside from just like background noise, like cars driving by. I think at one point there was a train that just halted everything for a good 5 minutes.
A lot of talking, but carrying on interesting conversations at the same time, I'd say.
Like I'd say something and then like it would not get a response. I'm like, oh crap, what do I do? And then I just say something really stupid, hoping to get a response, and that tended to work. I mean, it kind of fit my character, and like all the characters fit their own personalities, so I thought that kind of was a big part of it, so that was really good.
Not a lot of people showed up. Like I invited like every single person I knew in my contacts, and I would say about like six or seven people showed up to that. and we had a lot of food, but the way the party was situated was it didn't need to be that many people, so it worked out. Most people probably would have noticed. Weapons and Outfits was a very interesting scene to film. Like, I had some dialogue written for that, but when you're watching it, it is basically all ad-lib. We just kind of like took a bunch of masks, threw it around, and just filmed as we took up the masks. Like, hey, should we do this? What would we be called? And then the same goes with Weapons when we focus on that later, is we just got a bunch of weapons and just ad-libbed a bunch of things we would say about it. Really, just the opening and ending of both of those scenes are the actual like lines I wrote, because we need to transition from one scene to the next. But pretty much the entire bulk of that is just me and all 3 of us just making up things, not sure what to say. And most of which we did is all stayed in the movie. Some got cut, and somehow, like from what you see in the film, we say some pretty ridiculous things. There were more ridiculous things that we cut out in the movie. So,
For my favorite moment, it's not like the cool ones like a fight scene. I just like the time we did the discussing costumes and weapons on set. I'm not sure it was the same day, but it was basically the same thing. Because it was literally just us taking a camera and recording a normal conversation we would have with a slight leaning. We're like, this totally counts as a movie, right? If we just turn on the camera. And we let the camera go for like 5-10 minutes at a time, and then didn't really edit it too much and just kind of shoved it in there. And so the costume stuff is all really stupid, but it doesn't lead anywhere. It has no effect on the movie except for like maybe the last 20 seconds. And I really like the weapons because it's the only time you really see James get excited about something. Like, I've never seen him so pumped up to explain how he's using these weapons to murder people. Like, I'm gonna go with it was acting, but if it wasn't acting, you could have fooled me either way. It was really cool.
I really think that the best moment was when we were, it was just me, Shane, and James just showed up at James's mom's house, and we all had to like do our training for how we're going to kill people and make sure we're all in shape. And I came into that with like 0 ideas of what we're actually going to film that day. just that we had a whole day to film just us practicing and doing stupid things.
Where we're like getting the weapons and then doing trying to work out, but we're really terrible at what we do. So that's probably what my favorite experience from the film was.
So it was really just kind of us going around the yard, picking up things like, oh, like we can break something with this, or like, hey, a glory hole, that would be fun. And then everything we were doing was just totally thought up on the spot, and that was definitely like the most fun, trying to figure out what to do on the fly, but it was all like fun things, so it wasn't like hard acting. The fight scenes, and really like the lead up to it, like us showing off our weapons in the car, outside of the car, and then breaking into his house, that was all like in the script. That's what I had in mind as we go into his house, and it's like broad daylight, leave the car open, making noise. Everyone could hear us. It's terrible, like us trying to go into his house. But once we got into the basement, I had no idea what to do, so I gave Donovan right away, just make up some choreography for that, just come up with something. I had no idea, so he just sat down one day, made something. When he sent me the rough draft, I didn't change anything at all. We just went with it.
Making the choreography for the fight scene between myself, Sean, James, and Shane, I spent maybe two hours the night before typing up a Word document for all the choreography for the fight scene. And it was kind of cool. It didn't all quite go exactly how I wrote it, but a lot of it was kind of too over the top, perhaps. But I really enjoyed writing that. The fight scene wasn't too bad. The only issue there was a matter of getting everything down so it looked realistic and flowed a little more. I had a lot of fun writing it. I want to say that was a good 7 or 8 minutes of the film itself, aside from the whole 2 hours of making it. I remember the one part we were trying to film, and I accidentally fucking punched Shane in the face, and we had to stop everything.
Well, with Mike, have you ever seen the Pillsbury Doughboy fight somebody? It's a lot like that. Donovan did a really good job. He choreographed that whole part, so he was really good at kind of saying, oh, this is what we do, and then we do this, and it came together really well. There was one point I did get punched in the head, which was fun. James ran as fast as he could into a pillar, which was really cool. I think that was the take we went with. So it looked real because it was real. James probably hurt himself. So, Donovan did a great job. I gotta give it to him with that. I'm really proud of you, Donovan.
At Donovan's house, when we started doing the fighting scene, when we broke into his house, because things started getting more interesting at that point.
Once it got done, I thought, after everything you showed me, it looked really cool.
I just told Shane and James, just do whatever Donovan tells you to do. He knows more of what's going on than I do. I have no idea. And it actually turned out very well. Even though you can obviously tell we're not going to hit in those because we're not actors, we don't know what we're doing, it definitely turned out a lot better than it had any right to do. We've never filmed a fight scene quite like that before. And it was just so much fun. I will say the two moments that make it go from a horror to a comedy was the baby scenes, where it just makes no sense why they're playing cards and James wins and presses the baby to make it cry, or really I have no idea why we kept those in the movie, but even though those are the scenes that really stand out in probably a bad way, I'm glad we kept them in there, and it was a lot of fun. So after we get our butts kicked by Mike, we think of who else to kill, and after debating who we should go with, we decide to kill Kevin Fetz. And we show up to his house, break in really easily, go in his room, and he's just there hanging, and he hung himself. That was not in the script. That was probably the one thing in the script that was, the one thing that was filmed in the movie that wasn't actually in the script beforehand. And it was really the Kevin Fetz character just chose to be there, give us the camera, and never see him again. And I did kind of think that was probably a bad thing, because it's you show a character and he has no resolution. Doesn't really matter though.
And then probably halfway through filming, I wanted to die in the movie because I died in the last movie. Well, I died eventually. There's a whole other mess there with damage control. But so I wrote in the scene where they find me dead in my room.
I thought that really adds to the fact that We show up, try to kill one person, beats us up. Try to kill another person, he beat us to the punch. Try to kill another person, don't get it on camera. And I think like those three, then the finale is what is probably like the best thing. So I really have to thank Keith Hahn for thinking up that idea of why not just throw Kevin Fetz in there killing himself, because that was a lot of fun. Zeke kills Jamie very fast in the movie, and then it just goes to our like the body disposal. And well, first off, the kill scene was a lot of fun because you don't even see it on camera, but then all of a sudden Zeke comes out just drenched in blood because he just dumped a giant bucket on his head beforehand. And I remember like we did it in one take because we knew like, well, the blood was already dripping off, but we knew James did not want to be in there any longer. He just wanted to get like take a shower as soon as possible. So we just did that in one take, and he actually forgot his line that he was supposed to say. So we kept egging him on. I was like, oh, so what did you say? And he was supposed to say something, but he did not say it. So we just went along, worked it in later in the movie, but that was a lot of fun.
I mean, I really like James getting blood dumped on his head. I know he didn't, but I thought that was fun. He really got into that part because he wanted it over, and it came out really well.
Oh, it sucked. I hated it. Pretty much, it was the most uncomfortable scene that we ever did in all the movies we've ever done before. So, yeah, I hated it.
And then I remember afterwards he like immediately ran to our house to take a shower, but like he didn't like try to wrap his get any of the dripping off or wrap himself in anything. He just bolted in there, so our whole house in one giant line was covered in red goo, which was not fun, but my mom cleaned that up so I didn't have to worry. And then like for the actual like just cutting up scene, we basically just had Taryn just lay down on like a giant piece of wood and then just cover her in red blood, red goo. It was much more gooey than blood should actually be. And she just stood still the entire time.
Getting up from the sticky blood and finally getting to clean off. I'm sorry, but that is the best part. It was very uncomfortable, and I was sitting on a wood panel, and sitting on that, I'm going to be fair, my leg cramped up a bit.
And one of my favorite like scenes, like looking back, like looking at like the footage, is when I walk in there and then just blood just splurts across the screen and just hits the wall in front of me with a loud sound. And that was something that was in the script that I really wanted it to be in there, but I had no idea. And the way we did that was I got some pool toy that you put in water and you suck it up and then just push it down and it just flies everywhere. And we had Donovan laying behind the table. With just a bucket of red water and just filling it up. So every time James would hit the cleaver down, some blood would go. But then the part when I walk in, he just goes full throttle and just right across the camera. You can clearly see it. You can hear the impact. And it was we didn't even need a sound effect for that. That was a lot of fun. And then after that, disposal of the body was trying to add more emotion to the film. Whether or not it worked, I don't know. That's when I have more lines, which I feel like I was the only person who actually sat down and tried to learn my lines. I spent 10 minutes trying to learn my few lines, which was a lot of fun. I actually wish I had more time to act and not worry about making a movie and everything not falling apart. So the finale was I'll say right off the back, if you think it's way too short, it's definitely too short. I agree completely. It's when I started making this movie, I thought it would be a 30-minute film. And then I did the party scene and I'm like, wow, that's 20 minutes of footage right there. Well, oops. The movie kept going on, it got longer and longer, and then by the end of the movie, we ended up having a feature length of current run times 86 minutes was before I do my final trims. But the finale was made for a 30-minute movie. And then filming it, it really just required me, Jacob Rippin, Shane Scott, and James Bull just out in the woods killing people off. James was the first to go, and well, one thing I remember is when we were doing when James was stabbing Rippin against the tree, we got the first shot we took, and it was a side angle, and you can totally see that James was missing Rippin's body with a knife by that much. So we had to refilm that. Starting like halfway through the movie after, well, actually way past halfway through the movie where we're cleaning up Jamie's body. I started like planting the seeds that Zeke and Max just weren't getting along anymore. Like Zeke was starting to take more control. Like he took over cleaning the body. He and then you could see that there was like a wedge coming between them. Like he found out where how to get into Harold's house, and he was like dedicated in going his way, not the other way. And basically, by the end, it showed that Zeke is, even though it was supposed to be funny, by the end it's more horror, and Zeke is just fed up being like the second man on the totem pole, and he just takes over his. He just like takes over the group and just basically revolts against Max. There's a line near the end, right before Max dies, that he says, I'm the leader now, I'm gonna get what I deserve, and then he immediately gets stabbed to death. That was, that line wasn't like, I didn't write that, I wrote that line, but I didn't have the irony in mind when I wrote it. I just thought it was a fun line.
One part was fun when I was running at the very end and he jumps out and stabs me. I ran right into the plastic knife, so that sound I made was actual pain. So I mean, that made it real.
It was exciting. It was much different than what had been filmed before, compared to the comedic, lighthearted type of filming to the intense, brutal killings.
It's like a shocking twist to something you wouldn't expect. You would never expect the random douchebag to be like a main guy. You'd think he's just a douchebag that's just like a foil kind of character.
I thought it was an interesting take. I like that it leaves open the possibility to a sequel, and it kind of turned me on.
Well, if you watching this interview, you probably know about our other movies and how badly they have failed to become damage control. So, like, to that extent, we had no troubles or setbacks to the point where the movie had to be totally altered. Like, I would say from the actual script we had, everything that was in the script was filmed and then some. And then, like, an editing process went totally fine. This is coming out on time. So, like, in that respect, nothing big.
Out of all the movies we did, I have to say this was probably surprisingly the easiest. We didn't really have any problems. I don't remember having any setbacks, but it was a year ago that we did it, so I can really remember.
You're gonna have to do major damage control.
And then the only other like little setback I can think of is during the finale when I get my throat slit. It was kind of like Shane sees me on camera, then turns the camera, and while he turns, I have to quickly get out this squirt bottle, squirt it all over my neck with all the blood dripping down, and then he turns around and ripping and slitting my throat. And we failed at that like 3 times, so I basically each take, like, I had blood all over my shirt, and there's nothing I could do about it because we had to retake it because it didn't come out well. So that's why I think in the final take, I'm like, when you see me, I'm really like turned away from the camera the entire time up until you see the blood, because I was afraid you might see like a bunch of sticky stuff on my shirt left over.
I mean, the movie is like 80 minutes long, so I you don't get that without like a little bit of problems, but there was none. It would be, look at our first movie, it would be like 12 minutes long, or 6, or whatever it was, if there was problems, so, yeah.
I mean, the actress not showing up was a pretty big setback, but I mean, I was there, so...
Compared to our other movies, there's nothing major as far as I know. There's just, the minor stuff that comes up during filming, but, like, nothing that would have any effect on the movie, nothing you're really gonna remember, because this movie's not called Damage Control, so obviously things worked out.
Trying to both direct and act and film it at the same time makes it so I'm not really like having fun with most of the things. Directing, I'd say like any movie is actually really hard. If I wrote the script and that's pretty much what I thought it'd be a fun idea to do, but none of these movies that we make would actually get done unless I direct them, because no one else would want to. So I don't want to direct, I just direct because I want my written work to be an actual movie. So going into that, like, first off, I don't like it. So, but this movie was much different, I would say, because it like I was directing it, and even though I was acting in it and also filming it, it just was much more casual. I wasn't like, besides like a certain line that we need to remember, it was just kind of ad lib, and I was just filming. Like, I didn't actually have to direct them on much. Like, every now and then I would have him redo like a scene, just to like act a little bit better. But basically, I didn't actually direct too much of this movie except for like really key scenes, and I didn't direct a choreography fight scene at all at Mike's house. But besides that, like I was behind the camera, I was in charge, but I didn't actually direct too much. Acting in it was definitely fun to act, a lot more fun than my other roles as Skullface and Damage Control. And this time, like I actually, like since the feature length, I probably had more lines, but because the movie's so long, I had more lines. It's fun to act. I would say if I didn't have to worry about directing and making the movie and producing it and writing it, I would have a lot of fun actually acting. I feel like that's just a blast, and especially in this movie, when it's just three people, one of which is your brother, the other your friend you've known since preschool. It's just fun to just do weird things together. No, that sounds really odd, but just watch this movie. We do a lot of weird things together. I would say it gets to the point where I'm just caring about filming and directing the scene, and I'm not even caring about my lines, because I made sure to not give, like I said before, not give me any lines, because I need to focus on directing and filming it. But really, like during the scenes, like I'm not worrying about like where I'm standing or what I'm doing. It's more so what is the camera view, like what is the camera actually recording during that scene, because that's like if it's not on camera, it never happens. So like I didn't really care what I was doing, like acting wise. I just kind of threw that out the window, focused on making sure the shot was halfway decent and not blurry.
Editing, it's fairly boring, but someone's got to do it.
Editing process. I'm not the one who actually edits the movie, but I'm there with the editor, who's Keith Hans. Pretty much it's just him putting... first we start by taking the scenes and making sure we get each shot we want. And in this case, we had to order some scenes because there's long talking scenes and cut in different chunks. So I picked the order I want. Keith puts them in that order. We chop it down a little bit. So like the beginning and end are gone. Sometimes we take chunks out of the middle that were really bad lines that did not work.
Editing wise, it's fairly standard stuff for the movie. It's no one realizes how long it takes to edit a movie. That's like, the first time we've done a feature length movie, I'm used to working with like 10, 20-minute movies. This was an hour and 25 or something. So we must have spent, 25, 30 hours editing the movie between that and sound effects. So it's not like anything's hard to do. It's just a matter of putting everything together. And by the time you've listened to every clip and put it in, you've watched the whole movie so many times that you forget that everyone doesn't know every tiny detail about the movie that you do.
And then after that, like we make sure like we do sound effects after like the big chunk of editing is done, and that's definitely like the most fun, trying to do sound effects. It's you just walk around the house in my backyard, just what can I hit against something else to make a good sound.
But the best part about editing is definitely the sound effects, because you just go out and you just find random stuff to make good noises, or you find like for the stabbing noises, Sean's mom just got a piece of meat, and I just got a knife and started poking it and stabbing it, and it came out really good. And for all the different sound effects, like for the punching sound effects, that was my favorite one, because we just started hitting ourselves and we recorded it.
There's giant thuds we need, so I dropped like a cinder block from really high up and like a 45-pound weight just to see what it would make. And after that, it's like we don't do any voiceover work. There's not much things we add into the film later on. It's most of like the stuff like you see in the film is like genuine sounds. Like every now and like punching and stabbing are new, and we don't really like alter the film too much, because most editing is just sitting there just for hours on end, getting stuff done, but you feel like you're not getting a lot done. Sound effects are fun. You actually get up, do things, make funny sounds. It's a lot of fun to do that. Even though like these movies go on YouTube, if you're watching this interview, you got the DVD. Unless I did eventually put it on YouTube, I don't know. But I really like adding first off, I really love horror movies, but I love like collecting DVDs, watching bonus features, looking at all the weird things that they did to make a movie, and I just always wanted to make a DVD and give those extras as well. And since I have a huge DVD collection, I wanted to put my DVDs with the other ones that I watch all the time. Makes myself feel important. And for Snuff Said, obviously, like, we had to get, like, dual layer DVDs for more recording space because our movie was way too long. And I don't know what we ended up adding, like obviously these interviews, some bloopers. I think we added, like, the raw snuff film from the end of the movie as a bonus feature, and, of course, Alaskan Ed. All of those are just, I like having these extras to watch just to learn more about the movie. I know it's my movie, but I like more people to learn about the movie in other ways. Instead of just asking me, they can just watch something. But I just like having DVDs, and just putting my movie in their in my collection makes, I don't know, it makes it feel like a real movie. Okay, so should there ever be a sequel?
Hell yeah, there should be a sequel. But will there ever be one? No.
I think there could potentially be a sequel.
But I do hope there's a sequel because that was very fun. I hope to be a cast member. And yeah, hope there is one.
I'd say no, just because we're done. Putting other people in as kind of taking our place would be, I don't know, kind of be like a, trying to think of another movie that did that, but any other movie that would try that probably wouldn't work out so well.
Should there be a sequel? No. Could there be a sequel? Yes.
I don't think there probably should be a sequel. I think even though there is a tease at the end, I really think it's a movie that probably does not deserve a sequel.
My pitch would definitely be Damage Control, so Inferno, Slaughter, and Skullface versus like Mike and Rippin's character in that one, and just have them like come together as, okay, these guys were actually like killed the guys making a snuff film, and then somehow they get brought in, and it's just a terrible movie, but people will go see it because they always see crossovers. So that's how we're gonna make some money off there.
I think if we did, it'd be cool to explore the different killers.
You could give more background to Mike and Harold's characters, since they kind of just ended with the two of them being kind of the masterminds behind the whole thing. So there potentially could be a sequel, and like I said, it would outline what happens between Mike and Harold. Like, for instance, what did Mike do after these three assholes showed up and just left? Like, what happened after that? I don't know much about, for example, I don't know much about Harold's part, but I'm pretty sure something happened with him too, where you guys either you guys got killed or they left, and then he meets up with me, and it would set up a cool backstory between the two instances in which you attacked Mike, my character, and attacked Harold. Set up some story between that.
Well, I was a dead body, so I would not be in the film anymore.
So at the end, I don't remember anyone's character names, but Shane and James die, and I think Sean's Toby. He lives, maybe, and I'd go off that, right? So the sequel's, I don't know, 10 years in the future, I don't know, way in the future. Toby has survived, and he's gone a little crazy, and he's gone from this idiot who wants to film a movie to a deranged psychopath who wants revenge for his, those are his friends, not his brothers, right?
Friends.
Yeah, he wants revenge for his friends, and all he knows is that Harold killed them. So he's gonna, it's gonna be from the point of view of Harold, and you're gonna think it's a sequel about him doing his stuff. But then Sean's character is gonna come out. He's gonna be some crazy madman who's like honed his skills and like has this crazy plot, kind of like Damage Control, but like better. And he's chasing down Harold, and he's going to kill him, and that's when he finds out about Donovan's character's in on it, and that just leads to a whole other set of things. And so it'd be like a stalker's, it would be a real horror movie with Sean's character as a psychopath killing Harold and Donovan's characters.
I have, going into this, before it ended, I had two possible ideas for a sequel. The first idea was that the entire Snuff Said was a movie that me, my brother, James Bull, Keith Hans, Jacob Rippin, we all made that movie. So and then we play fictionalized versions of ourselves who are just become so obsessed with the movie we made that we actually start trying to kill people. So pretty much the only difference would be other like. Well, the only difference would really be the personality of the characters. So, like, my character is really timid in the movie and doesn't talk much. I would be, like, a huge loudmouth and, like, taking control of everything in the thing. Basically, it would be the same movie, just flip-flopped on personalities. And the second pitch I had was a continuation of that, the very ending of the film with Harold and Mike teaming up. That was actually added in much later. It was the idea of using that was both those characters make a have like also other people they help and make a they work with other people to make a horror like to make snuff films as well, and they're really good at it. So this would be more horror, and it just follows them as they record themselves actually killing people, getting things done, being very efficient about it. And then one time they eventually go after Jamie. Apparently has a sister, a younger sister that they try to kill. And while they're trying to kill it, they notice that all the friends start disappearing. And then one of them just like appears dead in like a really funny, horrific way, like maybe like being impaled straight from the bottom all the way up through the mouth. And then they slowly start to figure out that someone is hunting them down, which would be my character, Toby. My one thing against that is, though, I would not want to act as a role that important in a movie. Will there ever be a sequel? I can't say anything for sure, but if I had to put any guess on it, there will never be a sequel to Snuff Said. For all those fans out there who would be disappointed, I doubt we will ever come back to it. I think it stands on its own. Not well, but I doubt a sequel would make it stand any better.
It was our first feature-length movie, so that was an accomplishment.
And as of right now, we're making Damage Control 3, and like that's already starting to have problems. And I find it amazing that we were able to get this movie out. I mean, we just used our core group of people, that's why, but overall it was fun.
It's good though. It was very well made. It was very fun to make. And I hope to do it again sometime.
There was so much that was enjoyable from that movie compared to our other movies. Because mostly you just like handed us the camera and it was along the lines of just say stupid things, do stupid things.
It was fun.
I would just like to say again how smooth everything went.
This was a good movie to make comparatively with our other ones.
Because we only used like a couple core people for like 80% of the filming, and that's why we were able to get things done. So the moral of the story is don't try and rely on people because they're assholes and they will let you down. So if you want to make a movie, find like 3 friends who have no lives and just, or preferably if you could somehow do it and film the entire movie in like 4 days back to back to back, and just like you guys don't get to leave until the movie's done. That's how you make a movie.
Get the chance, go and watch it. It's a good movie. I enjoyed watching it. And
the last thing I'll add is Alaskan Ed. If you watch Snuff Said, hopefully you've seen Alaskan Ed for some capacity. Alaskan Ed was made over 3 core filming days and a little bit of like extra filming here and there. But it didn't take long, but it cost much more money to make than Snuff Said. Like we had to buy the entire Indiana Jones outfit. And then just a bunch of little things here and there like Mr. Gong Gong. We had to add them into add their costumes, which really added up. But that was just something that is just one big inside joke that hopefully functioned as a very good Indiana Jones parody. Whether or not it did, I don't know, but I hope people think so. It was just intended to be a trailer. No chance of that ever being a actual movie. And that's a good thing, because trust me, it would not work as a movie. We just had a lot of fun doing it. It was kind of, I guess, a way to blow off steam, like worrying about Snuff Said, and then you can just go goof around with Alaskan Ed. I wrote Dad actually as a script, so all the dialogue I wrote. And that was just so much fun. Like, maybe if there's another Indiana Jones down the road, we'll make another Alaskan Ed. I don't know, based around that trailer. Or we were thinking of like taking an Alaskan Ed character and just throwing him in different genres, like throwing him in like a James Bond parody where he's really like sexual, and who knows, maybe a kung fu movie. That seems to be a gaining theme with us. So basically, it would be a lot of fun to do more Alaskan Ed. So even though you might not ever see another Snuff Said movie, you might see Alaskan Ed return in some capacity. And you've definitely not seen the last of Maurice Tinklebottom.
Oh, geez. Alaskan Ed. That was probably better than our whole movie we made. James was, like, always a star as Alaskan Ed, the not copy off Indiana Jones. I mean, he was his own guy. I mean, he did have a hat, a whip, a leather jacket. He wasn't Indiana Jones. He's Alaskan Ed, different guy, totally. So, I enjoyed it.
I think it did it pretty good, actually. I enjoyed doing the whole thing. I think it'll get some pretty good laughs in it.
We're hoping.
Turned out, yeah.
Either laughs or stunned silence. One of the two.
A lot of racial slurs.
I mean, we're hoping laughs, but we'll see. I stand by everything I've said in that movie.
Alaskan Ed is the single greatest thing we have ever made, and it will always be the best thing we've ever made, because the only thing that's not, like, it's supposed to be cringy, which plays into our, like, $20 budget or whatever it was, and, like, the terrible filming and camera, so I think it's funny, but I'm also super racist, so I don't know if it'll lean the wrong way, but Alaskan Ed was really fun to make, and if you don't like Snuff Said, I don't care as long as you like Alaskan Ed.